Tokyo is the largest city in the world. It is big. And yet, despite its size, it's also clean and safe and oddly quiet and tranquil in a number of places as well. And for all intents and purposes, it's really gay friendly too. I love Tokyo. I can't wait to go back, and I recommend to anybody that likes to travel that they make their way to Tokyo as soon as possible. I spent 5 full days in Tokyo. Technically, it was 6 nights, but by the time I arrived in Tokyo and I got to my hotel, it was basically like 10 p.m. and I essentially just went straight to bed. And I was in Tokyo for 5 days before moving on to the Lake Kawakujiko area and Mount Fuji region. And it was enough time for me, but honestly, Tokyo is one of those places that I struggle with when it comes to providing blanketed general advice about how long to stay, because it really does depend on who you are as a traveler and what it is that you like to see and do. If you're like me and you like to wander and explore the city and cram in as many sites as you can, understanding that you won't see everything, then I think 5 days is a good amount of time. Especially since I was in Japan for 2 weeks, dedicating 5 days just to Tokyo made the most amount of sense, and in retrospect was the perfect amount of time based on who it is that I am and what it is that I like to do. However, a 5 day itinerary does come with its own limitations. In particular, you may not be able to see and do everything that you may want to see and do. For example, I wasn't able to see the Imperial Palace because unfortunately I wasn't able to reserve a time during the days that I was in Tokyo. And it also meant partaking in what my friends and I, lovingly call torture walking. That means that I would basically walk 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours a day. And in the case of my particular visit to Japan, the nation was experiencing what it called an unprecedented heat event. So that meant walking hours upon hours, sometimes without a break, in 30 to 35 degree heat Celsius, as well as with, humidity. And it also meant that I didn't really get to enjoy much of Tokyo's culinary scene. I'm not a foodie, but I will also admit that, when I travel, I do tend to travel and eat on the go, but I don't know if it's a stereotype or like a cliche or just a joke, that I literally ate like 90% of my meals at 7-Eleven or like Family Mart. And also, by the way, can I just say that I love Japanese 7-Eleven. It's iconic for all the right reasons. When you travel, you're going to do how you're going to do. And one of the things that I love about traveling, but also solo travel, is that it really does end up revealing who you are on the inside. It kind of reveals a bit of your inner truth. And who I am is a torture walker that would, rather wander the streets like some flaneur or like urban geographer and seeing as much as I can and then just eating whatever is in front of me. And luckily, in Tokyo and anywhere in Japan, a Lawson's, a Family Mart, or a 7-Eleven, I shouldn't say Japanese 7-Eleven, even though it's kind of its own thing, is like rarely more than 2 blocks away. So whenever your stomach is growling, you can just pop in and grab literally anything, like delicious ramen, meat, anything you want is at your fingertips. So that's who I was on that trip, and that's who I generally am when I travel. And so when I travel by myself, that inner self comes out, and Tokyo really, really, really allowed me to be, that traveler. With that said, that may not be your style. And so, before going to Tokyo, I talked to various people. And if you're the type of person that isn't much for urban exploration, for some people, a big city is a big city. Once you wander around and see, tall buildings, you kind of get the gist of it and you're happy and you're ready to move on. And I knew people that had gone to Tokyo and were happy with, 3 days. They wanted to see a few sites: the Shibuya Scramble, the Tokyo Tower, the Imperial Palace, and they were good to go. And so if that's who you are as well, if you're less interested interested in sort of exploring big cities and are happy to see just a few of the key, tourist sites, then 3 days might be a good amount of time for you, especially depending on how long you're in Japan for. Is it a week? Is it 2 weeks? And so on and so forth. However, if you are the type of person that wants the full experience, if you want to see the whole city, and if you want to see all the key sites, including things like museums, you'll probably need at least a week, if not longer. Again, Tokyo is very big. One neighborhood could be the size of a mid-size or large-size city. And some attractions require advanced booking. Team Labs, Mario Go-Karting, for example, the Imperial Palace, they all require that you book a slot time in advance, and you simply may not be able to get all the time slots that you want in the 3 or 4 days that you're there, right? You may only be able to get one on a Monday, one on a Wednesday, one on a Saturday, and maybe something, the following Monday, especially if you're traveling during the peak season. Again, Tokyo is such a large city and there's so much to see, do, and eat. I just recommend that you do a little bit of self-exploration to get a sense of who you are as a traveler and then plan accordingly. And of course, I hope that the videos that I, am producing for you will help you with your planning and itinerary too. I mean, after all, that's what I'm here for.